The townsfolk often said the grocery boy was invisible. He walked with his head down, eyes fixed on the ground, his voice locked away in a place no one could reach. No one knew his name. No one ever heard him speak. But every morning, like clockwork, he'd appear at Harper's Grocery, stocking shelves, arranging fruits, and quietly moving through the aisles like a shadow no one noticed. Children sometimes whispered rumors. They said he'd been cursed or that he'd taken a vow of silence. Adults just waved it off. The boy was just different, they said. And in a town that didn't care much for different, the boy stayed ignored, unseen, and unheard. Until the day everything changed. It was a bright Saturday morning, the kind that made the town square hum with life. The mayor's wife, Evelyn Rowe, known for her grace and elegance, had come down to Harper's Grocery herself. She was always courteous to everyone, a refreshing contrast to her husband's stiffness. She smiled at the grocery boy when she passed him, but as usual, he only nodded and looked away. That morning, however, Evelyn never made it past the dairy section. She collapsed suddenly, crumbling to the floor like a marionette with cut strings. People screamed, rushing to her side. Phones came out. 911 was called, but panic spread faster than help. Some tried to lift her, others called her name, but she lay still, her lips faintly blue, her breaths shallow. That was when the grocery boy stepped forward, silent yet sure. He knelt beside Evelyn with a strange calm in his eyes. Without a word, he took a pen from his pocket and a scrap of receipt paper. He scribbled something quickly and showed it to the closest bystander. "She's choking." Everyone froze. Then, with precise, practiced hands, the boy tilted her slightly and performed the Heimlich maneuver. For a moment, it seemed hopeless. Then a piece of candy, lodged deep in her throat, shot out. Evelyn gasped, her color slowly returning, her eyes fluttering open. Relief flooded the room. People clapped. Some wiped tears from their cheeks. The mayor's wife was alive because of him. But what stunned them more than anything was what happened next. When Evelyn looked up at her rescuer, she whispered, "What's your name?" The boy swallowed hard, his lips trembling. Then, with a hoarse, hesitant voice, one that sounded unused for years, he said, "Sam." The store fell silent. No one had ever heard him speak. Some gasped, others exchanged glances, but all eyes were on the boy who just saved a life and broke his own silence. Word spread through the town like wildfire. The mayor, usually too busy for public affairs, visited Harper's Grocery himself the next day. He wanted to thank Sam in person. Reporters showed up too, eager to hear from the boy who spoke only when it mattered most. But Sam wasn't interested in cameras or applause. He returned to his quiet work, his eyes still mostly on the ground, his voice rarely used. Yet something had changed. Customers began greeting him by name. Children, who once made fun of his silence, now waved and said hello. People began to see him, not as the strange silent boy, but as Sam, the boy who saved Evelyn Rowe. It was Evelyn herself who returned weeks later with a gentle smile and a simple question. "Why didn't you speak before, Sam?" Sam hesitated and then looked her in the eyes. "I used to, until my mom died. She was all I spoke to. After that, I didn't see a point." Evelyn's eyes watered. "But there is always a point," she said softly, "because your voice saved me." Sam didn't reply, but he smiled. A small, crooked thing, but sincere. From that day on, he didn't speak much, but he no longer hid his voice completely. When people spoke to him, he answered quietly, briefly. He found purpose in those moments, in being seen, in being heard when it mattered. And the town learned something too. They learned that some voices stay silent, not because they're empty, but because they're waiting for the right moment, the right reason, the right person to speak for. Sam's silent gesture had saved a life, but in doing so, it had saved his own, pulling him from the shadows into the light of a community that finally saw him for who he was. And in a town that once looked past the quiet grocery boy, no one ever did again.